in trust in the finished work of Christ, and then how her life has been different. And then we're going to sing some more, because as believers we sing because of God's goodness. Amy?
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. Oh gosh. Y'all, my name is Amy Merritt. It's an honor to be able to stand up here today and to share the story of God's redemption and his amazing and just transforming love with you guys. I grew up in a single-parent home with an older brother and a younger sister. I never knew my father. My mom was abusive physically and emotionally. She spent most of her time out at bars, coming home with different men each night and in jail other nights. She often threatened to give us up for adoption, and I prayed that she really would. When I was 5, I was sexually abused by multiple people over the span of a few years, including my brother. Growing up, I felt unloved, unwanted, and I never felt safe. Around the age of 10, I attended church for the first time, and I heard about God. I wanted to know more, but I didn't have a Bible, and I didn't have anyone to come alongside me to help me grow in my faith. A few years later, my mom found out about my abuse, and she denied it. She separated me from the rest of our extended family, including my grandparents, who were my only source of love and joy. I never knew why my mom did that, but I assumed it was to punish me. When I was 14, my grandparents passed away, and I felt completely alone. I moved out of my house when I turned 17, and at 18, I got married. The marriage helped me out of the hopeless situation at home, but not the hopeless situation in my heart. And after a few years, we were divorced. My long road of codependency was just starting. I had a lot of trust issues, but easily attached myself to any guy who showed interest in me. I became addicted to relationships to feel my worth. I was constantly afraid of being alone and abandoned. I continued making bad decisions. I got involved in the adult entertainment industry and the lifestyle that went along with it. I put myself in dangerous situations with strangers. I never felt like I was rebelling, I just felt like I was trying to survive. I was consumed with pain, completely heartbroken, ashamed, and I felt worthless. But God saw me, and he met me in the midst of this. I was forced to choose a path at a crossroad, and he clearly showed me that I had the strength to stop, and he gave me confidence to make a change. But even after the change, I continued to find myself in bad relationships. Again, God showed up and allowed me to see I was worth more than I thought. He gave me confidence and determination to move out on my own when I was 23, for the first time since I was 14. After a year, I met my current husband, Chuck, who was the most generous, loving, gentle, and kind man I have ever met. He didn't take advantage of me, and he accepted me for who I was. But after a while, our relationship got hard. Neither one of us knew Christ, and our relationship resembled that. After a few years, we were married. Still, I didn't trust anyone. I was suspicious of everything, and we were both living sinful lives. I wasn't able to love or forgive. I was completely broken, and all of my shame, insecurities, and anger drove us further apart. Even though we stuck with it and tried to make things work, both of us continued to show our sinful hearts. During this time, I also struggled with bulimia for about 8 years. In 2009, I found out when I was pregnant with my first child, and I made a decision to be healthy for the first time. I knew if I wanted a healthy baby, that was what I had to do. And at that moment, God took away my struggle completely and transformed my body image. After I had my daughter, I realized what unconditional love was for the first time, and it was so precious. While I was working as a nurse at Baylor, a friend invited my husband and I to Watermark, and after a year, we finally said yes. Up to this point, I lived my life completely apart from God. I hated my life, I hated my feelings, and I hated that I hated everything. I was angry about who I felt it was inside, and the anger was a big stumbling block for my marriage. I wanted to be happy, but I didn't know how. As I listened to sermons and attended different ministries at Watermark, God began to speak to me through his people, the Bible study, and different songs. And then I realized what had been done for me through the blood of Christ. That I was loved unconditionally and accepted for my sins past and future, and I wanted God to be the king of my heart. I realized he was the only one that can mend my broken heart and restore me. 2 Corinthians 5:17 changed my perspective on life. It says, "This means anyone who belongs to Jesus Christ has become a new person, and the old life is gone, and new life has begun." Jesus Christ began to soften my heart. I began to see him for who he was. I put my trust in him and not men. I began to see that my life was a living sacrifice, and I wanted to honor Jesus for all he had done for me. Joy filled my life in places where my shame and guilt were, and the shame of my past was gone. I was able to forgive for the first time. I truly felt the acceptance, love, and the grace of God for the first time. I was able to forgive others that I had never done, and now I have freedom in knowing, loving, and trusting Jesus. Because of him, I have mended my relationships with my family, accepting and loving them. I have been humbled in my prideful relationships with my in-laws, confessing my anger and repenting and reconciling. And despite these relationships with my immediate family never being loving or healthy, God allowed my uncle and his family to connect with me, share with me about my biological father for the first time, and now they are a part of my life. Looking back, I can see where God was with me throughout my life. He poured out grace and mercy over me, he protected me, and I'm so thankful that I can be freed and found rest in him now. I have a relationship with Christ now, and I'm able to live my life according to his purpose. My marriage is better than ever, my husband is a believer, and I can parent my children with grace and love. I have real relationships with people. I share what Jesus has done for me with others. Community has given me great friends and spurred me on, encouraging me, loving me, and crying with me when I need it. At times, I'm still weak in my flesh, and the enemy tries to feed me lies, but I'm able to recognize the lies and forgive others. I can pray and just fight my fleshly thoughts now, rather than let them ruin me or consume me. I'm able to cherish the love God has for me now, embracing it, living like a child of Christ. I feel the complete coverage of Christ's blood now, and I know there's no condemnation for those in Jesus Christ. My life verse is Romans 12:1 and 2. Present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that by testing, you will be able to discern what the will of God is, what is good, acceptable, and perfect. Thank you.